if I can ask you, if you have just joined us, to keep your mics on mute, that would be good. And we can move forward. There'll be a few more joining us as we go through. Philippe, if we can just move that on.
Yeah, so
you should be able to hear me, guys. Thanks to those that are just joining now. You can see there's a few joining in now. That's good. If you can't hear me, check your connection. Ask in the chat if you need any help, and it'd be great to know what clubs you're from and what role you hold. So just pop that in the chat so we know who's on the call. That'd be nice to share with us. We've got Amy, Chloe, and Matt in the chat tonight, supporting you with any questions that you have. Bit of housekeeping then. Keep your microphones on mute. Please use the chat function throughout the session. We will have chance for Q&A. Based on your feedback last week, we'll have a bit more chance of Q&A, but we're taking questions specifically on electronic match card tonight. So if you've got any questions when we're going through, get those in the chat. If not, and you want to come off mic a bit later to ask a question, that's fine. We can do that. We are recording the session, and we will finish at 7 o'clock tonight. So the plan for the session tonight, and thanks for those that are just joining. I can see a few more faces joining the session after a long day at work, probably. So the plan for the session tonight is, what is electronic match card and why is it used? How is it used? And what's the output of data? And then we'll have a good chance for some Q&A. And my colleague, Philippe, is with us tonight, and he is going to take us through the session. And I will hand over to his very capable hands now.
Thanks, Ian. Good evening, everyone. My name is Philippe. I work in competitions at the RFU, and I'll be presenting about the electronic match card today. So we'll start with the definition of what EMC is and why it is used. So here's an old version of the match card. So we used to fill in a match result sheet, and this was back in the day. Now we've progressed into the electronic version of the match result sheet, which looks like this if you were to print out the match card. But basically all this data is on the system. So so everything is on the system, as I mentioned. And why do we need to use the match cards? Basically, it's for governing purposes. So we need to use the electronic match cards to manage our leagues, register, the squads, the results, number of tries on a match, discipline, and so on. So we use the electronic match card for all RFU leagues, men and women, and we are trying to incentivize them for merit tables, merit leagues. The electronic match card is part of the competitions builder on the game management system, also known as GMS. And GMS is where we set up the competitions on the system, and also where we create the match cards for each competition, because different competitions may require different things on the match card, number of subs, for example. Moving on to how do we use the electronic match cards. So I have quite a few slides tonight. So I'll whiz through them very quickly, but don't worry, because we have a step-by-step guides and so on. So don't worry. Let me just admit some people that are here. Okay, yeah. So as I said, don't worry making notes or about the specific steps. As I say, we have a step-by-step guide that we can share with everyone. So how do we use it? Let me, okay, so to start with, you need two simple administrative steps that are required to enable people to use the system. And then one third step that I'll show you to set up the electronic match card correctly. So the first two steps is to create the match card administrator. And how can you do that? So step one, the user will need level 1, 3, or level 5 permission on GMS. And also, and this is step number 2, the user will require match card administrative role, match card admin role on GMS. So this can be given by the data officer at your club or anyone with level 5 permissions at your club. So once you have that, once the user has that at the club, he should be able then to log on to GMS. He can do this by going to englandrugby.com, and on the top right, there is a GMS button there. If you press on that, you come to this page and just log in. The third step I mentioned to you for that the match card administrator needs to do is to assign players to teams. So if your club has several teams, which maybe it does, it's likely, you will need to assign players to different teams, because then this is where the system will draw players from when you are inputting your match day squad. So you need to assign players to the teams, as I say. Of course, changes can be made throughout the season. So, and how do you assign players? So on GMS, after logging in, you just go to the top left tile over there, where this will give you all the options that you have. And then you select team management. After selecting team management, just go to your playing squad, and then you'll have the list of players, and you just need to tick on all the players that you wish to assign to that team. Bear with me, I'm just admitting some more people. Okay. Done. This can be done in bulk, and it's pretty straightforward. There's the buttons there, and you just tick players, and it shouldn't take long, and it's easy. It should be easy. You can assign the same player to different teams. So one player can be in the first 15 and second 15. Okay. Okay. Moving on. So now so this task that I just mentioned, it shouldldn't be.
No, everybody's in it. It's fine.
Excuse me. Sorry, there's someone that is not on mute. Okay, thank you. If you put yourselves on mute, that would be helpful. Thank you. So the previous tasks that I mentioned shouldn't. So this one, assigning players, you should only need to do this probably at the beginning of the season. Of course, players can be added, but you shouldn't be needing to do this all the time. So now moving on to the electronic match card itself, and this will require someone to do it, every week when there's a match throughout the season. For the essentials, and this is the essential steps of the electronic match card, there are 3 steps, which I'll show you. I'll go through them. Just so you know, hopefully you know this by now, but there's 2 versions that you can use. You can use the desktop version on your laptop or on your computer, desktop, and then there's a mobile version, which is to be used on your smartphone or tablet, iPad, etc. So both do the same, they just look different. Okay, so this is the address to use on your mobile version. Just so you know that on the top tips of the file explaining how to use this, there is an explanation on how to put this on your screen on your phone. So it's very easy then to access, and you can use it very easily. Okay, so there's these two versions. They do the same. If you update one, it will appear on the other, and vice versa. Okay, so pre-match, and so now this is the steps that we need to do to complete a match card. Just bear with me, just admitting. Okay, done. Okay, so step number 1, it will be pre-match, and this is to set up your match day squad. Oh, excuse me. Set up your match day squad. So to do this, you log into GMS as I shown before, and then go to the top left to select the tiles, your options, and then go into competition management. So what I'm showing you now is the desktop version. Personally, I would recommend using the desktop version to set up your matchday squad. Gary, I see you raised your hand. If I may, I'll just whiz through the presentation, and if you could make a note of your question, we'll go back to you at the end, if that's okay. Thanks, Gary. Okay, so as I was saying, so yeah, I think it's easier to do it on your laptop, set up your matchday squad, and I'll show you why. So you click on the tile competition management. On there, then on the left, you see match cards, just go to match card. You then can use these filters to go to the specific match you need to, and just use the search button, and then just click on any of these red buttons, and you'll go to that match card as such. So here we are looking at all the tabs that we can see. Don't worry. So just a note to say that before the match, when you set up your matchday squad, you won't see all of these tabs, just because the match hasn't started yet, so you don't have the option for match events, post-match, or confirmation. This will only appear after kickoff. Anyway, so, and then in here, if you're the home team, click home team and type in the names of the players of your squad. If you're the away team, the same, but on the away team. I'll show you how it looks. Here it is. Basically, when you start typing the name, it will automatically give you options of those names, and so it's pretty straightforward and quick. Also, you should tick here on the right if the player can play front row, just because of front row requirements. This will be then memorized by the system as well for future uses of those players. And this is, very good in terms of the players, because basically the players that appear here are the players that you've assigned, but not only that, they are players that are eligible to play on that specific league. Maybe not so relevant in lower leagues, but more relevant at higher leagues. So this how it looks like. Another benefit of using this here is that you can then go to previous matches or save team. I'll show you in a bit. Just a note that when you save your matchday squad, it will be name and date tagged, so we kind of have a control of who's changed it. Just so you know as well, you can change and update your matchday squad up to kickoff time, so that's fine. If you even on the day, perhaps on that occasion, you will use the mobile version, which we'll go through in a moment. Okay, this is what I was telling you. Basically, after you've completed this once, you then have the option so you can choose basically your team from a previous match, which will make it quicker, hopefully, because then you can just edit some changes on the players, or you can actually save a team and use that if you prefer. So just tick, whatever option you like, or you can complete again one by one if you wish. So this is the mobile version of the same situation. So this is how it looks like on your phone after you've accessed that address that I've showed you. So it shows you all of your teams. You just need to select the one relevant to you at the time, and then select the fixture. It will, once you choose the team, it will show you the fixtures. Just select the fixture, and then you'll have the lineups. Just need to then add the players, which I'll show you how to do. Basically, you click on that button there on the top right, and then it will show you a box where you can start typing the name of the player. it will show auto-populate, the options of those names, so it's quick. And then you just need to, after you have the right name, you just click on the position and then click save. So you need to just do that one by one. And then at the end, it's completed after you click save. Moving on. So that's step number 1, and it's done pre-match. Okay. Now, step number 2, and this is already post-match. So after the match is finished, just go to the referee, check the result and number of tries for each team, and then you just need to post the match result. This maybe is something that it's easier to do on your mobile, given that you're pitch side probably, or on the club, at the club. So you can use your mobile phone, just again, access that link, and then you have the match. Within that match, just click on the arrows to go to score. And once you see here, score, and then this is another screen, click on select result type, and then these are the options you have. So results, away walkover, etc. So if you have a result, hopefully so, you just type in the full-time results and then number of tries scored for each team and submit score, and that's done. Basically, this will then go directly to England Rugby website, the results of your fixture. Of course, depending on your league secretaries, hopefully you wouldn't need to call in the result as people used to, because this updates the result. So you shouldn't be needing to call anyone with the result of your match. But this, as I say, may vary from league to league, because sometimes league secretaries still may ask, for you to call the result in or so. Moving on, this is the same thing now, but it's on the desktop version. So on the desktop version, post-match, you just go to post-match and then match results. Again, the same options will appear, select results, and then enter the result. Try scored is important, because if you forget that, you may be missing a bonus point there. And then the next page, submit score. That's it. And then, as I mentioned, result will go straight to englandrugby.com as such. So we've gone through step 1 and 2. So I'll go over them again. So step 1, match squad. Step 2, it's the results. And then finally, step 3, submit the electronic match cards. And again, if you're on this is the mobile version. So you just need to go to confirmation, tick on the home team complete, and then submit match card. It's simple as that. It's very simple. Basically, this is just to confirm that the match card can go, and this will then go to your league secretary and all the list of people that need to receive the match card. And then this again will show the name and the date and time of when you submitted the match card. This is now the desktop version of the same. So go to confirmation and then home team completed, just change that to yes. This should probably change automatically and show approved. So you then just need to submit, press the red button, submit match card. Again, here's the name and date and time of the submission of the match card. So at lower levels, this is all you need to do. At higher levels, potentially the referee may need to approve the match card, but you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so this is the 3 essential steps, as I mentioned. However, there is an extra step, which is the match events, and this is something that we are really trying to incentivize, because it adds so much value to the players and also to the club. I'll show you what I mean by this. So basically, this will be someone inputting the match events, so try scored, conversions, etc. And maybe this can actually be done pitch side on the mobile version, So on the match cards, if you have it on your phone, just need to go to events on the, as you can see on the top left of the screen, but then, you know, events, it's that red button there. And then once you have that, just select event type. This is the options you get. I think, you know, if you don't want to worry about disciplinary situations, you know, maybe that's not so relevant, but maybe the scoring, I think is the thing we can get most out of from this feature. But it would be great, you know, if you can update disciplinary situations as well and other things, substitutions as well, that would be great. So, and basically you just select that and then select the player. You'll be shown the list of players. Just select the player and when the try was scored, and then just click submit. This is another example of, in this case, a substitution. So, you know, you have your team, the reason for the substitution, and then just select the player. You'll have a drop-down box, and then just select the player that went off and the player that went on, and when that occurred, and then submit. This will then be all recorded on the match card, which is great. But I'll show you in a moment what. Sorry, Gary, again. At the end, we'll go back to you. Sorry. It's just because if we start answering questions, this could take quite a while, because as I say, I have quite a lot of slides. Anyway, we'll definitely go back to you if you could make a note of your question. So this is all on the mobile version, what I showed you, the match events. However, you can also do that, you know, at the end of the day, if you know, it doesn't need to be immediately, and you know, you can do it on your desktop or laptop. At the end of the day, go to match events, and then just add the match events there. Okay, so, and what's the output of this data that I was telling you in terms of the extra step? I'll show you how what can be extracted from that information, that if you know, can take that extra step and that extra bit of time to input it. Basically, this is the England Rugby website, and here we have Northern v Sunderland, and in this case they've completed the match events, and this appears on the website. So it's pretty cool that you can see the full-time result for that match, and you can see, you know, who scored a try, who converted, and so on. It's information that stays on record, so it's historic information that will be recorded on the servers. So it's brilliant to have that. So if I then scroll down, I can go to Teams here. Bear with me, just admitting Heather. Okay, so I can go. If I scroll down, I can go to Teams, and I click on Teams, and then I can see the lineups. And if I click on a specific player, say Ben Bishop here, I can then see the history of appearances, minutes played, substitutions, you know, wins, losses, tries scored for Ben Bishop. This is brilliant. You can, you know, you can access this with a click of a button, and then you have nice graphics with wins, losses, and so on. So this is really great data that you know, we have this if people do that extra step. So that's why we're trying to incentivize people to do that. I understand, you know, may not be, you know, it's just a question of finding someone to do it, but perhaps it can be a volunteer at the club, or maybe even you know, not ideal, but even one of the subs potentially could make notes whilst he's off. You know, up to you who you give this task to, but it's something that has great potential. Some more information that we can extract from that extra bit, from that extra step, is if you go to your club, to GMS, and you go to the top left tile, gives you the options. And if you go to organization profile, you can actually access reports for your club, such as the ones that I'll show you, such as this. This is just an example, obviously, but so you get a lot of interesting stats about matches played, number of wins, losses. You can actually know an age range of players that have played for your team, etc. You can then also access player stats. So this may be interesting for coaches, where they can see, minutes played, etc., and they can manage that. So all of this is accessible on GMS, on organization profile. Another bit of information that we are working on at the moment is a player personal profile. So this is also something that we would like, we're working on and would like to get out to the players. So basically it allows players to have access their own profile with their own password, and they can look at their history, the matches that they've played since they were in age grade rugby. Here we can see Kevin played for Isher under 15s. So all of this is recorded on GMS. So then we can use this information, and it's something that people do like to see, and it's great to have a record, number of matches that you've played, and so on. Points scored, tries in this case, and here's the other teams that Kevin has played for. This is my last slide. So this is the ways to access match card data. So I've already gone through them, but it's just a summary. Basically, you can, in englandrugby.com, anyone external can access, as I've shown, the match card, and access the stats for players and so on. And then there's the GMS reporting, which I've just shown you. There's the GMS personal profile, which is the one that I've also just shown you, sorry. So that we're working on. And then finally, the GMS club websites where electronic match card data surfaces automatically on club websites created in GMS. So that's it from me. I hope you're still awake, but we'll now move on to your questions. I don't know, Gary, you raised your hand twice. I don't know if we want to start with you, Gary. I'll stop sharing my screen now, and I'll pass over to you, Ian.
Thank you, Philippe. Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, so now we've come to the Q&A part of the session. Just a reminder that if we can keep the questions specific to the topic around electronic match card tonight, because that's the theme of this evening. And if you've got a question, if you can raise your hand, and I will come to you. I've seen there's a few questions going on in the chat, which Matt and Chloe and Amy have been answering. But if you want to come off mic, please raise your hand if you've got a specific question, and we'll go from there. Currently 0 questions from anybody. There we go. Colin Garrett, I'll come to you.
Hi there. As well as being involved with a club, I'm also secretary of a local league, fairly low level, level 9, 10 and 11. I've had an issue just recently with the electronic match cards failing to pick up the 4-try bonus points that I can't seem to get to the bottom of. Just wondering if you've got any comments, reactions to that one. And the other one, it was my understanding that when you filled in the electronic match cards, you had to put in the number of tries. Is that still so? If you didn't, the electronic match card wouldn't come through. Is that still the case? So even if your score was 0, you had to put 0 tries. Is that still the case?
I could probably jump in here, Colin, answer those couple of questions. So evening, everyone, and thanks for your questions there, Colin. So on your second point, yes, you have to enter the amount of tries. That basically is entered into our scoring system. The reason for that is there's flexibility around the scoring systems that exist in GMS. So what that requires there is for you to actually denote whether you've hit any kind of bonus point there. In answer to your first question, that could be to do with the competition setup. So inside of GMS, there is a function called Competition Builder that's available for individuals, sounds like yourself, in terms of that league level and above. And inside that Competition Builder, there are a number of settings that can be determined. And one of those is the amount of tries that are required to trigger a bonus point. And obviously, in the vast majority of cases, that is 4. So we just need to check that the competition that you've created or helped administer or provided some information for has that setting applied to ensure that that's the case.
Can I just come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen Simon's name on there, and I've been in touch with Simon Cruz about this. It's not general. It's quite embarrassing, because in some cases it is picked up, in some cases it isn't picked up, the 4 try bonus points. So it doesn't seem to me to be the settings that's the issue. Okay, so we probably need to look at some examples there, and I can certainly touch base with Simon if that's already been submitted, and we can take a look at that. Basically, what we'd need to see is whether that's been submitted by the club correctly in those circumstances, and whether that setting is definitely there. But I can certainly pick up with Simon on that. Okay. We can get back. Okay, Matt, thanks.
Cheers, Colin. Just for awareness, Simon is in a noisy place at the moment, so you might respond to some stuff in the chat potentially, just for if anyone's recognised his name. Martin, come to you, please.
Yeah, sorry, a bit of a croaky throat. I've had a lot of use with the GMS before, but I just wanted a refresher. One thing I must tell people is that when you meet straight after the match, and if there's any yellow cards or anything, speak to the referee to confirm that the yellow card was either a technical or a foul. Because if it's a foul, it gets recorded in that way, and they will, if you put it down in the wrong way on it, they'll try and go back and alter it to a foul. And obviously, if it's a red card, that has further consequences, so they won't sign it off if you've got it as a technical when it should be a foul. It's just something to pick up on, but it's all about teamwork. Yourself and the assistant referees and the referee at the end, before the match, end of the match, everything. Let's just get yourself singing from the same hymn sheet, and it'll all go very smoothly. So that's all I wanted to sort of throw in there. But if you can get it right at the start and everything, then it makes it a lot easier. Also, one other quick thing is it's easier to put down in sequence your home tries and then your home conversions and penalties, and then move to the other team. You don't always have to do everything sequentially or chronologically, because with you recording the minutes, it will put that into the right sequence anyway. So
great, thanks, Martin, and that's great for you to
just one other thing. I just do T1, T2, T3, conversion 1, conversion 2, something like that, and it just makes it easier to if you've written it down on a piece of paper, then you can easily load it up that way, as opposed to trying to keeping on changing everything, changing team, changing player, changing this and that. Yeah,
that's great. Thanks for sharing that with everyone. Some top tips from Martin there. He's been doing it, so thanks, Martin. Nicola, I'm going to come to you next.
Okay, I've got some pretty general questions, really. One of which I think Chris mentioned should actually probably be done at the end of the session. But the question relates more to the match card, really, is the not effectively registered situation with the player. I know Chris sent me over a document to read, which I did read, but I actually we wanted to ask the question was, why do these occur? I mean, we don't understand. We've got some players that have been registered with the club for years, and yet they're coming up as not effectively registered. And what are the implications if you put them on your match card as not effectively registered?
And Nicola, I can probably sort of jump in and answer that, and then please respond if I haven't answered your question correctly, as there was a little bit of background noise in the middle of your question there. So the effectively registered player element, there's basically a cap of 100 players, which I'm sure you're aware of, and that process is where a player has been given a registration in the player registration version 12 module. This season, we've introduced player affiliation, and we've been targeting a couple of pilot CBs to try and discover how we can better track players on an annual basis, where we don't have that formalised registration element where that player may be participating in first 15 RFU leagues. Where you have an individual that exists in that 100 player limit, they will have an effective registration. They will appear with a status of effective. And if you assign that individual to that playing squad from your all club players list, that person then will appear in that list of players, which I think is what you're saying is already occurring. If you then select that individual onto an electronic match card, there should be no other status against that player that's highlighted. If that person is coming up as NER on the electronic match card, that's match card picking up that status from that individual, which is telling you that they don't currently have an effective registration. Now, if that is the case, that would either mean that that player has been deregistered and is now appearing just as a player in that squad without the effective registration.
Right.
Or it may mean that there has been a registration that's expired, for instance, and that may have been set by either an RFU registrar, or it may have been set by the club themselves. So there shouldn't be any reason why a player who has a current effective registration in GMS and player registration V12 appearing as not effective when you're selecting them onto the electronic match card.
So are you saying that we may have exceeded our 100 registered players in our first team?
No, so you can have as many players allocated to your first team as you wish, but you have a 100 player cap in terms of the amount of players that can hold an effective registration. So if you had already reached that limit, you wouldn't be able to then go and allocate more players to have an effective registration in the player registration version 12 module.
Right.
So that's unlikely to be the case.
So, but then that doesn't really explain why some of my players are coming up with not effectively registered then. Because if I haven't got 100 players, then, and we've not deregistered them for any reason, then why would they not have an effective registration?
There may have been an expiry attached to that registration, or they may have been deregistered by somebody else. So without seeing that specific example, I couldn't fully determine that. If you submitted a ticket into the into our help desk, then we'll be able to take a look at those specific individuals and provide you with a certain response based upon the data that we look at. But certainly, if you go and register that player in player registration version 12, they will then be given an effective status, and then they'll be able to be selected onto an electronic match card without the NER status.
I think these particular records are suspect or glitched or something, because these are players that are registered but still showing not effectively registered, and we've gone in and re-registered them just to make sure that they're registered, and they're still showing as not effectively registered. So I think we've got, I think Paul is on this call as well, and I think we've got quite a few of them that we need to clarify, so we'll send over a ticket.
No problem at all, and we can absolutely investigate that and tell you why. There's another sort of line of inquiry that we'd look at as to whether that player had an age grade registration, and that's picking up legacy data perhaps. So we could take a look at that, and we can absolutely help you with that, and we've got a team of people that will pick up that inquiry for you. Okay,
we'll Paula and I'll work together next week and get a list of those together for you.
Great, no problem at all. Thank you.
All right, I'll bring up my other question a bit later on because it's not match card relevant.
No problem.
Thanks.
How do I turn my hand off?
Press your hand again. Good stuff. Thanks, Nicola. Nick, I've seen you've been waiting for a while, and then Colin, I'll come to you after. Nick, are you there, mate?
I was there but muted.
No worries. Good stuff.
Just a quick one. As a competition secretary, how can I see the match cards for games that have been taking place within that competition. At the moment, I'm picking up the results coming through well, but I don't seem to be getting the match cards.
I can probably answer this one as well. So hi, Nick. When you go into the competition management module, you'll likely see a match card tab. If you selected that and searched for the particular fixture that you're looking for, or the competition that you'd like to view, you can then select on that fixture, and that will take you through to a match card summary page. And on that page will be a button that says produce match report, and that will spit out the PDF of that particular game. And that will give you the breakdown of all of the match events, the lineups, and any other commentary that comes through from that match card that's been completed. So we can provide some information on that, and I think Simon's on the call, and as is Philippe. So we can provide direct guidance on that if you need any further assistance.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much indeed.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Nick. Colin, you've got another question, mate.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, more a comment, really. Why is there 100 limit on effectively registered players? And is that going to continue? At the moment, we have to assign the players, and I'm telling the clubs I'm involved with, just assign all your players, your 100 effectively registered players, to all your teams. And I can't see what's being achieved by the assigning of players to teams.
Yeah, so no problem, Colin. So I could probably pick this one up. So the 100-player limit attached to effective registration is a process and a regulation that's been in place for quite a long time, to be brutally honest. This is something that's being picked up as part of a registration review that's going on at the RFU at the moment. And I think, probably before my time, but this has really looked at sort of some of the administrative burden at clubs, and also some of that competition administration that was taking place across sort of league level right up through to the RFU. So that's sort of the reason for the 100-player limit. The reason why we've sort of gone down the route of the playing squad functionality in team management is to enable a bit more flexibility, but also operational efficiency in electronic match card land. So if you've got a giant list of players, what we saw was actually team management became a little bit less effective if you were trying to manage a particular squad. So you can by all means go and put 100 players into a playing squad for the first 15, but some clubs like to use that playing squad limit as, say, 40 players that they know are going to participate in the first 15, and start to actually use that as a bit of a list of individuals that houses things like emergency contact. You might be able to email all those individuals from that list. And also, when you're in electronic match card and you're going to search for players to enter onto that lineup, match card speeds up a little bit, because it's not looking for a giant list of individuals. It's looking for perhaps the sort of 30, 40 that you may have in your first 15 squad. The other element there is in the age grade game, we're looking to enable this functionality moving forward. That's not something that's really being utilised yet, but in the age grade game, we see a lot more sort of flexibility required if you've got, say, an under 14s group of individuals where 3 teams actually exist at that age group. And we'd like to then go and enable that flexibility for the club to go and allocate those individuals into a particular team, should the club wish to be able to operate that way. So that functionality can be done in bulk. And as you kind of articulated, you could use that in whichever way you see fit. So you could go and select all the players that you know may participate in any of your teams and allocate them across all of your teams. That's absolutely fine. But to enable that flexibility, we've introduced that step. So what we wanted to really sort of tell the story of is players sign up each year, or they may already exist from the previous year. You can go and allocate them to a particular team, and then they can be selected from an electronic match card. That's the sort of simple story that we wanted to try and tell, really.
I think I can follow that, Matt. It's just that at the lower levels, it's not quite as Philippe explained earlier, keeping all those stats. It's just a matter of getting the match card completed.
Yeah, no problem at all. And we would see that, to be brutally honest with this group, if you go and choose to manage your squads in that way, that is a 10-second exercise. And that is hitting that module, hitting select all and going assigned to team. And that process is then done. And you may choose to do that once a season, or again, from the sort of flexibility angle, a club may wish to actually chop and change and do that. So as you can probably sort of imagine, we've got around sort of 12 to 1,300 clubs that we're trying to sort of manage requirements for. So we fully appreciate that there are certain clubs that may use this in one way and not another. And when you're gathering requirements for particular changes that we look to deliver, we try and sort of create that process where we enable those elements to be covered off and not sort of restrict it. So in one way, there's sort of an extra step, but we hope that based upon what I've explained there's some refinements that can take place, and that clubs can use that in whichever way they see.
I think you need to get rid of the 100 limit. That's the stumbling block.
Yeah, and look, you know, there's recognition that there's legacy business rules in there, right? And that, you know, that's something that goes through our governance forums and will ultimately come out of this review in terms of what's required at particular levels of the game moving forward, and sort of how we move along with that based upon other changes that are going to be delivered. So less of a sort of a GMS and match card issue, and more about sort of the rules and regulations, but we will definitely feed that back, and it is on the radar. So yeah, sort of watch this space is probably the answer on that one.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks for your feedback, Colin. Is there any more questions around electronic match card? Anything that Philippe has gone through that you're unsure? Anything you've heard Matt just say and you're unsure, you want clarity on anything? No. Okay then. Nicola, you just said you did have one question at the end. You got your hand up. Great. I'll come to you.
Well, now I've found where it is, I'm going to play with it all the time. I have a question. Why, when you deregister a player in V12, do you sometimes get an effective to date, and sometimes you don't? So we've been deregistering players, and sometimes you get a set. It says yes, they're effectively registered from, and then it says they're registered to. So you know the next day you can then go in and do this thing. Sometimes these are not actually showing a date. Is there a reason that is the case? Does it mean the deregistration hasn't worked, or is it just that it's just not completely deregistered that player?
So not an error in terms of the deregistration element, but don't want to spend too long on this because it can get quite complicated, but there's a lot of legacy data in GMS, and the player registration module has been around for a very long time. So timestamps against records that had a registration over a potentially quite a long period of time may have picked up a particular effective to and from date based upon when they were registered. This, unfortunately, is a little bit of a case by case when we unpick registrations over X amount of years old. Right. So what we're looking to do as the RFU is look at how, and sort of link to this review of registration really, is how do we better refine some of those registration processes so that we can better manage that where we need to as the RFU, but you can better manage that as a club, where you get a consistent list of these people are registered and we know that they're of this status. These people in the future are affiliated and we know they're of this status, and there isn't any confusing dates that are flying around. I don't have a specific answer to that, and without seeing the records that that you're referring to there, but we are aware that there are legacy registrations that may have those effective dates that may come across as confusing. So so again, if you don't mind submitting something in so that we could take a look at those specific records, we could certainly give you a little bit more information about that.
We would have to do that when it happens another time, because these were records where we were it was tied up with another problem that was put through to a support ticket, where we were trying to deregister players, and in 2 cases we're trying to get them off the player squad because they were no longer with the club, and then we wanted to remove them from the club, and they would not remove from the player squad. They were just staying there even after we deregistered them. Once we deregistered them, we thought we could get rid of them off the club. Well, they were still staying on the playing squad no matter what. Right. So they were all removed recently, so that's all happened and gone now, so I can't give you any examples in that particular case. But we have had instances where we've had duplicate records, which, let's face it, with the use of GMS now, we're getting a lot of duplicate records. People are going in and for some reason they've forgotten their passwords, so they just create a new profile. And in those cases, we were deregistering both the two deregistering both the records that have been created in an attempt to merge the original one back on the GMS so that we could then go back in and create a one registered player. And in a lot of those cases, it was taking us days and days and attempts and attempts and attempts. And this deregistration would not work, or it wouldn't drop them off. And we could then do the merge. And in the end, we had to send them up to a ticket to GMS.
Yeah,
now, I'm not sure as a data officer whether we were doing the right thing or whether we should have just right at the beginning gone to GMS. But you must have so many of these records that simply can be merged by us if we can deregister the players and then register the right one back on. So are we doing the wrong thing? Should we be going to you with all of these, or can we do that step if it works? And it does work sometimes, but it doesn't always work.
Yeah, so it again, and thanks for your points there. Legacy data, unfortunately, is the issue. You may, we touched on this for anyone that was on the call last week. We spent a little bit of time discussing this, but where we're at the moment really is we've got the 2.1 million records in the database, and we're really trying to look at the strategies around how we remove some of that redundant data, because that is what really sort of hurts us in terms of some of the processes and perhaps some of the poor user experience that we see, particularly from the administrative angle. Where we fully hold our hands up is we probably went a little bit too aggressively in terms of how we wanted to remove that that legacy data. We took a bit more of probably a business mindset at it, which is a record should have a minimum data standard. And if anybody on the call here signed up to any sort of modern application from scratch, you'd be asked to fill in the same amount of information that we're requesting from those new records. But that doesn't really address all of those legacy records that we've got in GMS. And the key learning that we took from this is we went a bit too hard on that, particularly with our timings, but also we didn't probably recognise the amount of records that were still being used by clubs more from the sort of membership angle that didn't necessarily have that information, but clubs wanted to retain those records. So we had to sort of really draw back quite heavily in terms of what our original intentions were, which was to remove a lot of those records that didn't have the information that enabled their account to be recovered in a streamlined way. I guess my overarching point really here is that those things knitting together creates a bit of a problem where you're looking at records that have either old information attached to them or a duplicate that's been created where business rules potentially are clashing. And if you look at the merge tool, our merge tool prevents player registration records from being merged, as you've already highlighted, because that's obviously a bit of a competition integrity issue, potentially at particular levels. So you've got a number of things that are at play here, which create a little bit of complexity. And we were trying to probably hard hitting remove that towards the start of the season. And that's certainly something that's front and center for us. We've taken a little bit of feedback from clubs as well around how we might better do that. So providing a framework, but enabling clubs to actually go in and choose records that they don't want to be removed, even if they don't hit a minimum standard, giving that a slower burn and really helping with sort of the comms and engagement angle, hosting more sessions like this to try and sort of chip away at that. So that's sort of what we're really focusing on at the moment, but all of that stems into some of the problems that are probably being outlined from that process. So we can help on the service desk. Sometimes that does take a little bit longer than others, depending on the complexity of the issue, but we'd hope that we'd be able to resolve all of those for you. And yeah, please bear with us. We are sort of working on the way that we manage that data moving forward, and and that's
you're happy for us to try and do it the other way, which is to deregister and then
absolutely. So the guidance here and our documentation is that if you attempt to remove a record and they hold a player registration in the adult game, you can go into player registration version 12, deregister that player, go to your people tile, find the record, select them and choose remove from club, and 9 times out of 10 that should work based upon the player no longer having an active player registration. And then that will remove that record from being linked to your club. It won't remove it entirely from GMS, but it will remove it from your club's jurisdiction, if you like. That record will still exist in the GMS database. And in theory, that individual could then go and recover their account, log in and go and affiliate or join your club again or somebody else, and so on and so forth.
And the
That's
merging,
sort of
and the merging side of things, deregistering
Yes.
players to merge them is within our remit.
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, we fully
Go on.
appreciate that there's a couple of steps at play
Yes.
there that might prove tricky for you if you come against any of those barriers. And
Yes, I understand that. Now I know that that's a possibility then, because often we do these things and then we think, well, what have we done wrong? Have we done something out of order? But as it turns out, we've done everything in the correct order. It's just that we're fighting against, as you say, old data, and it's links to things.
Nicola, I'm going to, because conscious we've got 5 minutes left. We've got 2 hands up for questions. I want to get as many questions as we can. Nicola, if you've got another question, because I think you were just about to say I've got one more question, pop it in the chat for us and we can get that back to you. I'm going to come to you, Martin, because you've been waiting very patiently.
Yeah, just a quickie. Putting in away colour strip, is that put in at the club basis? I'm just getting ahead of myself for this Saturday's match against Worthing, and I wanted to put in our away colour, and I wasn't able to.
Martin, I think you can do that in the team management module. Going to your team and then hitting edit on your team and entering the colour that way.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm just working on the tablet, not on the laptop, but it's just not taking me back right to the start. So it's,
okay, give that a go, and if you
go.
can't, then we can have a look for you on that one.
Yeah, because it is a good thing to have just in case there's a clash, obviously. So
yeah, good
stuff. Sorry to interrupt, Martin. I would say best to contact the other team just to make sure
Oh yeah. And also remember to take your kit with you one day. Yeah, which we didn't.
Absolutely.
No, brilliant. Thanks, Martin.
Well done, guys. Anyway, yeah.
Cheers, Martin. And we've got 3 minutes remaining, so I think this will probably be the last question of this evening. We might have time to revert back to Nicola. Nick.
Yeah, sorry, mine is just a very quick follow-up to my earlier question, because I just tried it out, and I'm only seeing the cards that involve my own club, not the ones that involve anybody in the competition. Am I doing something stupid, or should I just raise a ticket with you?
No, Nick, that's probably something to do with your permissions at match card level. So yeah, I might ask Simon if he can sort of touch base with you on that. If he's on the call and in the chat there, just to check that your permissions in the competition management area are appropriate for your league administrative privileges. Okay. But absolutely, if you hit match card in the competitions area there, competition management match card, you should see the competitions that you have jurisdiction over, search for the fixture and click on it, and you'll see the produce match report on the summary page there.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Cheers, Nick. Cheers, Matt. One last question. I see Colin, you've got your hand raised expertly. Well done.
It's really just to try and help Nick out with his. I've had that issue before, and I'm not sure whether he's going into GMS as a club rep or as a league secretary. You need to go in as a league secretary and not as a club rep. If you're only seeing your own clubs, and that's right at the start of GMS. If Nick's still struggling, I'm quite happy to have a chat with him sometime.
That's brilliant. Cheers.
That's really helpful.
Yeah,
that is right, Colin. Yeah. Yeah.
I logged in initially as the club, but then I used a little double arrow to select the CB. So I hoped I was doing the right thing on that, but thanks.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Colin, for offering your support to help there as well from experience.
We might try and get you on the service desk, Colin, if you
got a few hours spare. Guys, thank you so much for all attending tonight. Hopefully you found this session really helpful and useful, and maybe you can pass this information on to other people within your club to help them out, and so they're aware of these sessions as well. Next week we're focusing around a different topic, so we're looking at finance and memberships. So please encourage the relevant people within your club to register for that. It might be you guys registering again, So it'd be good to see you next week, same time, 6 till 7 p.m. And hopefully we'll have for our third session in the series out of our 4 sessions this autumn. So thanks for coming, and thanks for a great experience tonight. It's been